Don't ignore, God says, your soulmate is happier every day because of you. My beloved child, listen carefully, don't skip this message, because there is something beautiful you need to hear. Somewhere in the heart of the person you love, something is changing. Little by little, day by day, they are becoming happier because of the impact you have had on their life. They may not have told you. They may not even know how to explain it themselves. But there are moments when they suddenly smile because they remembered you, moments when an old memory brings warmth to their heart, and moments when they realize that knowing you changed something inside them. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that you never had to force it. You didn't have to chase them. You didn't have to convince them. You simply became a meaningful part of their journey. My beloved child, stay until the end, because this isn't only a story about romance. It is a story about influence, healing, gratitude, and the quiet way one person's presence can change another person's world. Sometimes you never realize how deeply you affect someone because they don't tell you. You see your own struggles. You see your unanswered messages. You see the distance. You see the moments when they seemed cold or distracted. But you don't see what happens when they are alone with their thoughts. You don't see the smile that appears when your name crosses their mind. You don't see the memories they replay. You don't hear the conversations they have with themselves about you. And you certainly don't know how many times your presence has given them hope when they were having a difficult day. Maybe your soulmate has been carrying a lot behind that smile. Maybe there were moments when they felt lost. Maybe they questioned whether they were capable of being loved. Maybe they became so accustomed to disappointment that happiness began to feel suspicious. Then you came into their life, and something felt different. You didn't necessarily fix everything. You didn't magically remove their problems. But you reminded them that kindness still exists. You reminded them that someone could care without demanding something in return. You reminded them that connection could feel peaceful instead of exhausting. And that is why they may be happier every day because of you. Not because you are responsible for their happiness. Not because their entire world depends on you. But because knowing you may have inspired something within them that was already waiting to awaken. Perhaps before you, they had stopped believing in genuine connection. They had been hurt. They had trusted the wrong people. They had given too much to people who gave too little in return. Eventually, they built walls. They told themselves they didn't need anyone. They convinced themselves that being alone was easier than being disappointed. Then you appeared. Maybe you didn't even realize the effect you were having. Maybe you simply listened. Maybe you remembered something they had told you. Maybe you encouraged them when nobody else did. Maybe you made them laugh during a difficult moment. Maybe you looked at them in a way that made them feel seen. Sometimes the smallest acts create the deepest memories. Your soulmate may remember a sentence you forgot saying. They may remember a conversation you considered ordinary. They may remember the exact moment they realized, this person is different. And perhaps that moment became a quiet turning point. They began looking forward to talking with you. They began smiling when they saw your name. They began wondering what you were doing. They began imagining what it would feel like to have you closer. But then something frightened them. Because happiness can be terrifying when someone has experienced loss. When you have been hurt before, finding someone who makes you happy can create a new fear. What if I lose this? What if this disappears? What if I become attached and get hurt again? Maybe your soulmate pulled back because the connection became more meaningful than they expected. You may have interpreted the distance as rejection. But perhaps, in this story, it was confusion. They were trying to understand their emotions. They were trying to decide whether they were safe enough to open their heart again. And while they were doing that, you were wondering why they weren't saying anything. This is where the story becomes emotional. Because sometimes two people can care about each other and still be terrible at communicating it. One person thinks, if they cared, they would reach out. The other thinks, if they wanted me, they would understand why I'm afraid. Both people wait. Both people wonder. Both people feel the distance. And the silence becomes louder than the feelings. But your soulmate may have been learning something during that silence. They may have realized that happiness isn't always loud. Sometimes happiness is the quiet feeling of knowing someone exists. Sometimes it's remembering that there is a person in this world who genuinely understands you. Sometimes it's seeing a familiar name on your phone. Sometimes it's hearing a song that reminds you of someone. Sometimes it's driving past a place where you once laughed together. Sometimes it's lying awake at night and realizing, I miss them. And perhaps your soulmate has been experiencing those moments more often than you realize. They may be happier because your presence gave them something they didn't have before, hope. Hope that love doesn't always have to hurt. Hope that someone can know their flaws and still appreciate them. Hope that vulnerability doesn't always end in rejection. Hope that their future can be different from their past. And perhaps that's what God represents in this inspirational story, not a guarantee that a particular person is destined for you, but the reminder that love, growth, and healing can enter your life in unexpected ways. Maybe your soulmate has started changing because of you. They're taking better care of themselves. They're thinking more positively. They're becoming more patient. They're learning to communicate. They're setting healthier boundaries. They're finally confronting things they avoided for years. And perhaps they don't even realize how much your presence inspired those changes. You may have shown them a different version of love. A love that doesn't demand perfection. A love that encourages growth. A love that says, you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Those words can change someone. Maybe your soulmate once believed they had to earn love. They thought they needed to be successful enough, attractive enough, strong enough, successful enough, interesting enough. But your presence may have taught them something completely different. That being human is enough. That mistakes don't erase worth. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That asking for help isn't failure. And perhaps that's why they smile when they think of you. Because they don't just associate you with romance. They associate you with possibility. You became connected to the idea that life could become better. That is powerful. But listen carefully to this part. You are not responsible for saving your soulmate. You are not responsible for carrying their emotional burdens. You are not responsible for fixing every wound. And your worth does not depend on whether they choose you. You can be a beautiful influence in someone's life without becoming responsible for their entire life. Healthy love allows two people to grow independently while supporting each other. That distinction matters. Because if your soulmate truly becomes happier because of you, the healthiest version of that happiness is not dependence. It's gratitude. They don't think, "I cannot survive without this person." They think, "My life became more meaningful because I met this person." There is a huge difference. And perhaps that's what they are slowly discovering. The silence. The hesitation. All of it led to one honest conversation. Not necessarily a perfect ending. A truthful one. And perhaps that is what God represents in this story. The courage to keep growing. The wisdom to release what isn't healthy. The patience to allow people to reveal themselves through actions. And the grace to recognize love without losing yourself inside it. So don't chase your soulmate. Don't panic if they are quiet. Don't assume every silence means rejection. But don't excuse unhealthy behavior either. Watch actions. Listen to words. Protect your peace. Let people show you who they are. If they truly care, they will eventually communicate. If they truly value you, they will respect you. If they truly want a future with you, they will participate in building it. And if they are happier because of you, they won't expect you to carry their happiness. They will want to add happiness to yours. That is the kind of love worth waiting for. The kind that doesn't say, "You are responsible for me." It says, "I am grateful that our lives crossed." The kind that doesn't demand, "Complete me." It says, "Let's grow together." The kind that doesn't threaten, "Stay or else." It says, "I choose you, and I respect your freedom to choose me too." Maybe that is the love your soulmate is learning. Maybe that is the love you are learning. And perhaps the most beautiful thing is that neither of you has to become perfect before the next chapter begins. You simply have to become honest. Honest about what you feel. Honest about what you need. Honest about what you can offer. Honest about what you will no longer accept. And perhaps your soulmate is finally reaching that place. The place where fear no longer has the final word. The place where they can admit, "Yes, this person matters to me. Yes, knowing them changed me. Yes, I am happier because they came into my life." And maybe they are ready to tell you. Not because some magical countdown forces them. Not because the universe guarantees a particular outcome. But because they have grown enough to speak the truth. So, my beloved child, if you have ever wondered whether your presence mattered, let this story remind you of something powerful. You matter beyond romance. You matter beyond whether someone chooses you. Your kindness matters. Your words matter. Your presence matters. And the right people will not make you constantly question your worth. They will recognize it. Maybe your soulmate is smiling today because they remembered you. Maybe they're grateful for a lesson you taught them. Maybe they're becoming stronger because of the encouragement you once gave them. Maybe they're finally learning how to love themselves. And perhaps one day, they will stand in front of you and tell you the truth. They'll say, "You didn't save me. You simply reminded me that I was worth saving." And you will understand. You were never meant to carry their entire world. You were meant to be part of a story where both people grow. And if your paths continue together, let it be because both of you choose it freely. Let it be built on honesty. Let it be built on respect. Let it be built on patience. Let it be built on actions. And if the path changes, trust that your life can still hold beautiful things. Because your future is bigger than one relationship. Your purpose is bigger than one person. Your worth is bigger than anyone's decision. So tonight, breathe deeply. Release the need to know every answer. Release the pressure to make everything happen. And remember the beautiful possibility at the center of this story. Perhaps someone out there is happier because they met you. Perhaps someone is stronger because you believed in them. Perhaps someone smiles because your name still lives in their memories. And perhaps someone is quietly grateful that life allowed your paths to cross. But now, let them carry their own happiness. Let yourself carry yours. And if one day they return with honesty in their eyes and courage in their voice, listen. Not because you desperately need them. Because you are strong enough to hear the truth without losing yourself. Maybe they'll say, "I've been happier since I met you." And perhaps you'll smile. Not because you finally proved your worth. But because you always knew your worth was never something another person had to confirm. You were valuable before they arrived. You were valuable while they were confused. You were valuable during the silence. And you will remain valuable no matter what the future brings. That is the ending I want you to remember. Your soulmate may be happier because of you. But you do not have to become smaller so they can shine. You do not have to abandon yourself so they can heal. You do not have to chase them so they can notice you. You simply have to keep becoming the person you were created to become. And if they are meant to walk beside you, they will have to grow too. They will have to meet you with the same honesty, the same respect, the same courage. And when that happens, it won't feel like you're chasing love. It will feel like two people finally recognizing what they've built together. So keep your heart open, but keep your wisdom awake. Keep hope, but keep your boundaries. Believe in love, but never stop believing in yourself. Because perhaps the greatest blessing isn't that someone is happier because of you. Perhaps the greatest blessing is that you are learning how to create happiness within yourself. And when two people who know how to create their own light meet each other, they don't compete over who shines brighter. They illuminate the road together. Maybe that's where this story is heading. Maybe your soulmate is becoming happier. Maybe you're becoming stronger. Maybe both of you are growing in ways you cannot yet see. And maybe, someday, when you finally sit together and talk honestly about everything you've been through, you'll realize that the story wasn't about waiting for someone to complete you. It was about becoming whole enough to love without fear. So don't skip the next chapter of your own life while waiting for someone else's. Live it. Love it. Build it. And if your soulmate walks into that chapter with honesty and genuine intention, welcome the possibility. If they don't, keep walking. Because your story is still beautiful either way. And perhaps that is the message you needed most. You were never placed on this earth to beg someone to recognize your value. You were placed here to live with courage, love with wisdom, and become the person you were meant to be. If someone becomes happier because they met you, be grateful. If someone becomes stronger because you encouraged them, be proud. If someone remembers you with love, receive that gently. But never forget the person who deserves your love every single day. You. And perhaps when your soulmate finally understands that, they'll realize the most beautiful thing about you was never that you made them happy. It was that you taught them how to find happiness within themselves. And maybe that is why, somewhere in this story, they smile when they think of you. Not because they need you to save them, but because they are grateful that you reminded them. There is still something beautiful worth believing in. And that is where the story ends, not with a promise that everything will happen exactly as you imagine, but with something even more powerful. Hope without desperation. Love without control. Faith without fear. And a heart that finally understands its own worth. Your soulmate may be happier because of you. But now, beloved child, make sure you are happier because of you, too. Because that is where the real miracle begins.